during December, the first draft of the specifications, and we're on track to issue the clearing specifications next year. So watch out in December for the draft of the trading specifications. That'll be the first draft that will come out. Then on our downstream solutions, we have 3 core new systems we're building, which are the VIS, which is valuations, which I think most of you will agree. We've always, from a JSE perspective, wanted to improve that service. And so we are building the right kind of technology to be able to provide the right kind of service to our clients. We have real-time, the integration requirements for downstream, and really about how those interface back into the trading engine. And then, of course, we are building a new reference data system called Master Data System, and that's to manage appropriately all the reference data across the board and how those get connected. For example, if you have an equity instrument and it is linked to a single stock future, part of the market model considerations will be if we halt an underlying because there is a lack of information, unlevel playing fields, do you automatically halt the single stock future? Okay, we've not done that in the past, but the recent halting of MTN raised a whole bunch of issues from people in terms of, well, does that make sense? Why can you trade on unlevel playing fields and not the right level of information in the future, but you can't in the equity? How does that link back to many other instruments and complicated things like corporate actions in terms of how we deal with those in a more automated fashion? And the big bugbear that we know many of you have is providing reference data files that are much easier for you to integrate into your systems than the way that we currently provide the data that's on the derivative systems. We also have a new billing system, including in the finance side as well, which is going to be how the invoicing works, how those flows work, because some of this is not uncomplicated given the structure of the JSE, of JSE Clear, and then JSE, the exchange operator. So far, these are all on track. And for user readiness engagement, we've written letters to software providers and clearing members and members. The reaction has been varied. Some are so excited and delighted to meet with us, and some have asked the question, what are you talking about? What's this ITAC? So that's a bit of a worry, and we'll pick that up. Letters to the market data clients will go out shortly. And then, of course, the user readiness engagement activities, which will kick off with a enormous amount of gusto next year, will be settled in the next number of weeks. We have got a working group topic list. Please, you're encouraged. If you would like something discussed at a working group, you can send your suggestions to the ITAC email address. We have not had very many to date, but I think probably most of you are trying to consume all the information we've given you to date. The one thing that has worried us is the representation of the technical working groups. And we feel that many of you have not had any people come to the technical working groups. So Sandra's busy looking and reconciling a list. And for those member firms or software providers or clearing members that we are concerned about, we will be dropping you a note to say, look, we are a bit worried about the representation and you haven't had many people attend the working groups. We also make all the presentations available, and this is the current website link where you can go and fetch any of the presentations. So this might be somewhat controversial, but these are the software providers who have confirmed to the JSE that they will provide functionality in the areas that we've designated. Okay? Some of you may have said, maybe, probable. We have not put your name on the list. We will only put your name on the list as a firm when you confirm to us you will definitely provide that functionality. We don't want to be in a situation where we provide names to clients. Clients contact you and then you say, well, we haven't figured out whether we want to or maybe. So these are the 6 software providers that have confirmed to us they will definitely be providing trading and market data front-end interfaces into the market. So that's Estuary, Iris, Nutcracker, SunGuard, Synthesis, and Tata. There is a broader list of software providers who currently operate in the equity market, but again, they have not confirmed categorically to us that they will be providing solutions for the derivatives market. These are the 3 software providers who've confirmed to us they will be playing in the space of the deal management, clearing, and risk management space. Estuary will be looking at the clearing and risk management, and SunGuard have indicated they will provide services in all three, and same with Tata Consultancy. If your name as a firm does not appear on here, it means you have not confirmed. The sooner you confirm, the sooner we can add your name to this list. Right. I'd like to hand over now to one of the people in my team. Grace heads up our client services, and she's really going to take you through the client services update. And as I indicated, in future, we're also going to be expanding on how we're meeting SLAs, both from a trading and market information perspective, BDA, and any other services where we indicate that we have SLAs. SLA, SLG, the contract says SLG, but essentially we take those commitments very seriously, and we are always trying to meet them. So I'll hand over to you, Grace.
Morning, everybody. Wrong way. So from a client services center, we're very pleased to advise that we are finally at full staff complement. We've replaced all vacancies, including myself as the head. We've endeavored to hire people that have a little bit more experience so that the training part of it wouldn't take as long. At our previous comp session, we shared with you who the client services managers are, which is Nashin and Julian, and we wanted to just share with you what the different members in the team's names are as well, because I know that quite a few of you deal with them more frequently. So in each team, we have six analysts and a couple of specialists there. Now that we are at full staff complement, our focus is still going to be training of those staff, getting knowledgeable staff, because that was one of the issues that was raised by clients and concerns, especially with regards to the restructure. As with most organizations, we do on-the-job training. And the nature of our business means that we can't just take a man off the street and put them in and they are fully competent. So it does take a little while, and that's going to be our focus, ensuring that we do have the right people in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. So part of this is having a specialist expert that can help you when you do come through to the call center or to the service desk, and they're able to help you as expediently as possible. The other thing that we've done in the client services center is in September, we've implemented our new telephony system. And the telephony system, the main reason we did this was to ensure that you get to the right person as quickly as possible. And on the 7777 number, option 1, you'd get to trading support and connectivity related queries. Option 2 is post-trade support and BDA. And then option 3 is password reset. Another thing about the telephony system that some of you might not know is in the rare occasions, very rare occasions, that we do have high volumes and we're inundated with calls, we don't want to inconvenience you. We've implemented a voicemail option. So if you do get to that whole message, you can select option 1, leave a message, and we will then contact you back instead of you having to hold for an extended period. But that's very unlikely to happen. Again, reiterate what the two teams does. So from a trading support perspective, these on the left are all the services or query types that we can assist you with. And then on a post-trade support, we've got on the right all the services that we can then assist you with again. Both teams are fully trained to deal with password resets. And I think that we've started already getting most of them upskilled, so especially on trading support. Derivatives was a concern for us, and that's been a focus for us. We've actually managed to get quite a highly skilled individual there. Peshan, I'm sure some of you have dealt with him. Okay, so now just to focus on and reiterate what the client service center vision is. Our focus for 2016 and as from now is really to improve the client experience. It's about how we can deliver a better service excellence. Every opportunity that we are given, we want to be delivering excellent customer service. And how we're going to do that is there's a number of initiatives that we've undertaken, one of which is the automation of password resets. That project is underway, and we'll hopefully be able to give you some more information on that at the next comm session. Hopefully it'll be implemented, but it's already underway. And then when we look at the telephony system, another thing that we've got there is we'll get more intelligent management information. So we can then identify trends. We can start looking at proactively providing you with value add services as opposed to waiting for you to tell us what you need. We can start looking at the queries that we're getting and see, is there a training intervention that's required? Is there more client visits needed? Which is something else that my team and I are actively doing. We're going to be doing more regular team visits, client visits. And that's in an effort to understand what your needs are so that we actually don't fix something that's not broken. We don't change something that's really working for you, but we want to understand what the concerns are and address them as quickly and efficiently as possible. Okay. If we look at our market availability per quarter, we can see we've slightly dropped in quarter 2, but we've not gone below 99.8. And in quarter 3, we've actually come up to just above 99.9. That's for the 2015. If we look at our year-on-year comparison, we've got a steady increase, and in 2015 we've actually exceeded the 99.9% availability. So there definitely has been improvement from that side. And again, market disruptions for the year across all markets has been steadily decreasing, and we are 2015 sitting at 10 market disruptions. So my team and I will be available after this to hopefully meet some of you as well as field any questions.
Thanks, guys. So perhaps you did notice, but the overall market availability is across all our markets, not just equities, and that's at the highest level ever. And similarly we are at the least amount of market disruption. So we'd like to keep it that way. We don't have a couple of issues this week, but it seems to be as soon as we schedule a market comm session, a couple of days beforehand, we have some issues. And my team has just said, can we just not do these? I said to him, no, we'll just keep it a secret. We won't tell anybody. And then we'll have it at the last minute. So things like BDA service levels, we do track those. So we're also going to be publishing some information around that. And we have seen a vast improvement from the service levels of the first quarter to the back end of this year, but still not at the level that we would like. We would still like to make sure that we are hitting the SLAs. The other thing we noticed in particular is that people, because we do things earlier than SLA, they come to expect files and information available at that time instead of when actually the SLA is. So we are going to do a little bit of communication around that and then make sure, and Grace has got a particular initiative to indicate when we will be communicating when there's an issue versus what's going to happen when we are not hitting SLAs versus SLAs, so that we make sure that we are giving you the right information at the right time for the right reasons. So I want to hand over to Neil, who's in the market data team, who's really going to take you through the market data update.
Morning, everyone. Just make sure I've got, is it the one on the right, huh? Okay. Oh. That was planned just to... at the last comp session, we started raising awareness about the new service that we were working on. We're pleased to announce today that that new service is now ready for business. It's a service available to international clients, all right? I want to make it clear so that we don't cause confusion. And it's really to meet the needs of clients that want to basically get hold of derivatives data and don't want to carry the cost of coming all the way to our systems here in Johannesburg. It's going to involve real-time equity and commodity derivatives data, and it's going to be level 2 data, the full order book. It's basically the clients will have to, interested parties will have to then go through a level of conformance, pretty standard stuff, and then we will be able to switch clients on. I've basically just put an email address in there. If you have any questions, anyone who's interested in understanding more about the service, then by all means just drop us a note or chat to your account manager. And we're quite excited about this new service. I think it's going to provide clients with more choice, and it's interim until the iTech systems deliver the new MIT-based systems. And in line of that, we try to provide the format as close as possible to the format that's going to come with iTech. All right, it's not an exact match. So let's call it each like. Okay. Ichi, yeah.
Same one, but right.
Yeah, there's it. I also wanted to just use the opportunity to raise awareness about something that we've been working on. In 2011, we went and modernized our data agreements that covered non-indices data, equity, bonds, and derivatives. And now embarking on the next phase of that modernization, we are revising our indices agreements. We've very deep into this process. At the moment, we're in a client canvassing phase where we're just checking with a number of clients as to what we should consider. And the intention is that we're going to roll this out in 2016. Okay, so we will give fair and adequate notice. We will also make sure that our sales team and our sales support team are going to help clients through the process. I know it's not a enjoyable process, but it's an absolute necessary process. The indices data agreements have been not keeping up to pace with changing technology and changing business uses. So it's absolutely imperative that we go through this change. Once again, if you have any questions around the rollout or want to put suggestions or things that we should think about while we're going through the drafting process, please don't hesitate to use that email address. Okay, thank you. That's me.
Thanks, Neil. All right, so now we've got a couple of general sections. Gwen is going to do the update on business continuity. I'm going to do the remaining 2015 derivative releases, as well as key market-facing dates for 2016, excluding T+3, which will be done by Leila and Brett. And then Dennis from our IT team is going to cover our big replacement of our client access network. So, Gwen. Thank you. I'm not going to say more.
Hi, everyone. So just to give you some feedback on the DR test that we had on the 3rd and 4th, it was a mandatory test across all markets, but I want to thank those that participated in the test. I mean, it really proved that we can access all markets from the DR site. So thank you for your participation. But there's always a however. However, we did not get adequate participation from the derivatives members. So we have identified that there are issues regarding connectivity. So there's a case where people they don't have adequate connectivity to the DR site. Some were actually testing on the day thinking that they do have connectivity, but they didn't. So our teams are going to be engaging with you just to explain to you what the options are really for connectivity. As you know, these options have changed over the years. There's more options available for you, more cost-effective options. So we will be addressing that with you to try and assist you in getting your connectivity. Remember that we all have an obligation to make sure that our business can continue running in the event of an incident or an outage. Then just to let you know that during Eco-Mobility Month, the JSE was able to test its business continuity plans very successfully. I'm sure you will agree that nothing was impacted. The services or our systems was not impacted, and it is business as usual. And likewise, when we had the march from the political party on the JSE, we were able to make use of our business continuity measures to make sure that business was not impacted and the staff safety was ensured. Okay, that's me.
That's me.
That's me.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Right. Are you not going to cover your DR tests?
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah, this is yours. These are your tests.
Sorry, guys. So these are the dates for 2016. We have issued a hotline with the details of these tests, but just to reiterate, we will be doing some internal testing in prep for the market-facing test. What you need to make sure that you're aware of is the 5th and 6th. We are going to be expecting all members to participate in the tests, okay? There will be consequences for non-participation, and as I said, our team is going to be engaging with you in terms of the connectivity so that we make sure that everybody is ready to participate. Okay, so now that's really me.
Sorry, I just asked a question. Very late in the year.
Yeah, and most people are doing lastminute.com on their own things. And the DR test was so late in the year, I think it would be quite difficult to get full classification.
Okay, so when we did it in October, we got the comment to say, but we're doing big, massive releases. Can you make it slightly later? Which is why we scheduled this particular date. So we'll have a look and see whether there is anything in the calendar that allows us to do this earlier, because we have some other releases that are going out, including stuff for Swift, including DIS, and then we've got 1A implementation. If there is another date available, we'll send it out, but then we're going to require feedback from all of you around which dates are preferred, and then we'll select by democratic majority. Okay.
Yeah. We try to work around all the school holidays and religious holidays, etc. As you can imagine, it's quite an exercise.
Yeah. Right, then to cover the two remaining releases on the derivative markets for this year, we have the EDM and CDM release, which is going in deployed on Saturday, 28 November, live on 30 November, and the contingency date is Monday, the 7th of December. And then we have the RC market release, which is happening on the Saturday, the 5th of December, for go live on the 7th of December, the Monday. That contingency date is next year, not in this year. So we are on track at this stage with the testing. This is the functionality that we're just reminding you about. The one element I would like to point out is the dynamic price brands for all the markets, which is referencing the last traded price. Even though this functionality is available, we still need to work through the market in terms of how we physically actually going to implement that and what's the process and the procedure. So we probably won't switch that on from a go live perspective, but we will work with what are the dynamic price bands, etc., because there was some discussion at some of the advisories around that. So the test environments have been available since October, and their specs were issued in September. And if you want to go and test, if you haven't tested and you'd like to go and test, you can contact our Client Services Center. They'll figure out how you get connected. But what's most important about these releases is that you will need to download a new front end prior to the go live date. We will send out reminders prior to the implementation, but you will require a new Neutron front end prior to the go live date. Please make sure that your teams are aware of it. There are many instances where we put a release live and on Monday people can't connect because they haven't downloaded the front end. Right, so these are the key market-facing dates for next year. They have been published in a hotline. We're just reminding you of the participant test weekends. These are optional tests for you. We bring up production services. This is the same concept we will roll out into all the markets as we implement ITAC. We will bring all our trading and information systems up and available for essentially you to use for your testing. Many of the people here in the room will attest to the fact that when people start to want to move PTWs, I'm really about no, these are the client testing dates and we need to keep them sacrosanct. So if we move one of these dates, it'll really only be because there is an absolute must. We understand how important these are to you and we don't move them lightly. So these are the current dates and you can see they are always a Saturday. Regrettably, the one Saturday is over a long weekend, but we don't really have another choice. We don't have another weekend available in the calendar that we can actually use. You may or may not figure out that actually if you take 4 days leave next year, you can get 11 days off. I won't tell you when. I'm sure you'll work it out. Then the exchange test weekends. These are weekends reserved for us and where our services are not available and where we do testing, where we might roll out big network changes or other sorts of changes, and they may be mandatory. So we ask you to put these in your calendar that you may be required to test with that. It depends on the nature and the scope of the change. So sometimes we get a limited set of users and sometimes we require all users to test with us. These are the dates. We have got the 9th of July earmarked, but you'll see just now in the T+3 dependency in terms of there's a date range that we are giving. But essentially there are 4 or 5 ETWs each year that we earmark for us to do testing. Really what it means if you're not asked to participate is our services are not available. and you just need to check for the hotlines. So mostly these might be network access, which means that even if we've got BDA up, you might not be able to access the service. Right. Then the key market-facing dates as well for other implementations. So T+3 we're going to talk about a bit later. For ITAC, for 1A, we're targeting Q3, Q4. Once we've looked at what that means and how we think we're going to roll those out, including the dress rehearsal dates, we will come back and communicate that to the market. But we will definitely be doing the equity market implementation during the back end of next year. And derivative markets, we have no releases planned for next year on the existing derivatives technology. However, if we have production bug fixes or we have production issues, then we may schedule those essentially and implement that. Right, if I can hand over to Dennis to talk about our client access network replacement.
Good morning, everyone. Legacy telecommunication mediums like X21, which we use for network connectivity, have reached the end of their useful life. Like everywhere else in the world, the telco carriers in South Africa are phasing them out. They were end of life or end of support from 2013. Therefore, the JSE as well will accordingly be decommissioning these technologies as soon as possible. We therefore urge all our clients who leverage X21s or E21s or any of the other legacy technologies to migrate off these technologies as soon as possible. We have a list of JSE approved network service providers. You can either call the CSC to give you an indication of who these are, or on our website, it's the list would be published there. It's an ever-growing list as the network service providers certify with us. So these network service providers would have alternative solutions which you could use for connectivity to the JSE platforms and services. The connectivity options that we urge our clients to consider include Metro Ethernet connectivity, fiber connectivity, or extranet MPLS, which a number of the telcos in South Africa do offer. While doing this migration, we would like to urge all our clients to consider future requirements for initiatives such as ITAC. As you know, the market data for the derivatives platforms after post-ITAC will be in multicast form vis-a-vis the current TCP/IP form. And in the multicast world, we always have an A feed and a B feed and various other things that are necessary in order to satisfy the requirements of disaster recovery and other things. We in the JSE IT team will be available to help explain some of the options you would have. If you want to get in touch with us, please dial the 011520 and *7, I believe. And you will be connected with one of our network experts in our team. This is particularly important because most of this connectivity is the connectivity that's utilized by a significant contingent of our derivatives market clients. So we'll work with you as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. So I think it's useful to pause here because it's going to be really important, first of all, that you know if you're one of these clients where your telco service provider is decommissioning the current connectivity that you have. So we know who uses this current technology. So we will probably be in contact with those clients anyway as a proactive step off the back of that. But please use the services that the JSE is offering, because in your planning of your new connectivity options, as Dennis has indicated, you need to take ITAC into a requirement. In the requirements, you need to take DR Again, if you're using an extranet MPLS, your DR connectivity can be very easily sorted because they can reroute your connectivity to the DR site, and you don't necessarily have to have permanent connectivity options in place, especially for the derivative clients. We are, from a JSE perspective, just need to give forewarning, re-looking at the requirements for connectivity because of the increased regs that are coming out around continuity of service to clients, and there are both obligations on market intermediaries as well as infrastructure providers like us. There are minimum requirements coming out which may require us to re-look at our connectivity principles and standards. But we'll communicate those in due course. This communication is based on our existing principles and standards, where on the equity market you are required to have permanent connectivity to the DR site. On the derivative market you are required to connect to the DR site should the JSE invoke DR or test DR. Okay. So just a heads up that we are looking at it, and there may be some changes, but those are not really JSE-driven changes. Those are because of the regs are changing. And there's a lot of detail coming out from our OSCO, and then across the board where we have multinational firms who are going to be required to meet different standards if MiFID II sees the light of day in the next couple of years. Right. I want to pause here and find out if there are any questions on the content that we have covered up to now before we do the T+3 and BDA updates, which are really equity market specific. And therefore, after we've heard any questions, those members that are not involved in the equity market or really are not interested in hearing the content, I'll give you an opportunity to leave. And you can eat all the food before your other colleagues join you. Any questions? No. No. Well, then you may leave if you are a non-equity market participant and you are really not interested in hearing about T+3 and BDA. And thank you very much for your time and attendance.
That's why. Do you push the arrow? Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for sitting through an enormous amount of detail and to wait for the announcement around the date, the narrowed date that we are planning to put forward to the market. No, not the arrow, the other one. We're just going to go over a little bit of a summary on the status update. We're going to talk to you about the Go Live month decision timeline, and then I'm going to hand over to Tyrone, who's going to talk to you a little bit about user readiness and market readiness. We're giving Brett a break for once. He's normally up here, and we thought we'd let him rest and bask in the reflected glory of all the work that he's done. Before I start this the presentation, I really just wanted to say thank you to all of the market participants who have taken part in the testing so far. You've done an incredibly gracious job in both participating in the non-mandatory and now, of course, also the mandatory part of this. I really have been quite impressed and quite touched by the value and the priority that the market has put on the T3 project, and we really, really do appreciate it. The difference between this phase, which is phase 3, the grey phase at the bottom, and the other two phases is that we are hugely dependent on the market. Previously, a lot of the system changes were internal to the JSE. Now, CSDPs and in some instances, certainly brokers will have to change their activities, but a lot of the system changes are sitting with the CSDPs. Right. So in terms of the testing update, all the coding is now completely finished. Our internal integration testing is completed, and we've done a full cycle of regression testing. Our first cycle of SIT, where we had 2 CSDPs joining us, was extremely successful. We did have some very good lessons learned, but the testing cycle went really well. And what I can say is, as we reflect on how we did over the last period, in the last phase, relative to this phase, we've got a dramatically lower level of bug rate. The systems are performing in a transformationally different level and league than where we were last year. So we're feeling very confident, and we really are very dependent on the market readiness. Now, the CSDPs are currently testing in cycle 2, and that's due to be completed on the 20th of November. And we have a number of other cycles that we've put in. I'm not going to bore you with all the detail around what we are focusing on, but effectively the major part is fails management, and you can see all the detail beneath that, which really substantiates why it's so important. There are a lot of complexities. It's very different to our current T5 cycle, and we really need to focus in heavily. There's a lot of other detail which I'm not going to go through, but effectively it's the timing change. Batches will happen at different times. Margin will be called at different times. CSDP functionality, and so it goes. This is really the 10,000 feet high scope. I know that many of you have sat in very detailed workshops with Brett and Chris and Tyrone and Barbara, and there's a lot more detail than meets the eye. So what did we consider in looking at the go live month? We looked at the JSE readiness. We looked at whether that was technical or functional. We looked at CSDP readiness, straight readiness, and market readiness. These were key criteria. We've also taken a look at when futures closeout is, and we don't want to go in a couple of weeks prior to futures closeout, or obviously on the weekend of futures closeout. The volumes are just massive. We've looked at corporate actions. Global initiatives are also affecting some of our CSDPs, the BDA month end, calendar month end, and then the DIS impact, as well as internal JSE systems releases. In terms of JSE and straight readiness, as well as the CSDP readiness, we're comfortable that everybody is pretty much ready. In terms of market readiness, I can't emphasize this enough. Tyrone is going to go through how we're planning to address this. We are going to be hitting the pavements and coming to see many of you around whether based on our readiness criteria, we are concerned or not, and we will be highlighting those. We have identified all the CEOs. We'll be sending readiness reports, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that the teams that you guys are heading are ready and are fully involved. Corporate actions, we've had a look at that, and the decisions that we've taken have been based on volume of corporate actions anticipated in the following year, and then an internal system. Global initiatives, unfortunately, our go live window was between May and July. Now, we, for all intents and purposes, could have gone live in May. The debate that we had was whether we should add in an additional cycle, and we looked at what was going on globally, and a lot of the international multinationals had said to us that they were concerned that there were some quite big global implementations that were going to probably be going in April, May. So in terms of that, together with the fact that futures closeout happens obviously on the third Thursday in June, and taking account of BDA month ends, we decided that it's probably unlikely that we're going to be able to go live in May, particularly because of the global changes. We could have gone in without this extra cycle. The test cycles are looking very clean. We've got very few high and critical bugs. The low and medium bug rates are also very, very low. But we felt that given that we haven't done this with the market in the previous cycles, and given the global changes, we should probably rather opt to add this additional cycle into the mix. So effectively what we are saying is, although the JSE might be ready for go live at the beginning of June, and in fact if we didn't put this additional cycle we would be ready at the beginning of May, we are suggesting that we have our deployment weekend either on the 25th, the 9th and the 16th of July. Now we have met with a lot of the CSDPs and straight, and some of the CSDPs have raised some concerns around the 25th of June date because they're not going to be able to make systems changes. They have month-end freezes. So it may well be that we end up having to go in on the 9th of July. We will only confirm the actual go live weekend in February once we've had an opportunity to assess market readiness between now and then. So if we have a look at the timelines, effectively we are having 6 SIT cycles. We're on the second SIT cycle, that's systems integration testing cycles, and we're very comfortable at this stage that there is nothing indicating that we should be worrying about those dates. We've got 2 UAT cycles. Could we have done with less? Certainly we absolutely could have. I think that we could have removed that extra cycle. We were just concerned and we thought we needed to be absolutely prudent, and let's rather have 1 additional cycle and make absolutely sure every single CSDP is ready. The CSDPs are at varying levels of readiness. Some have finished all of their coding, others haven't. And so we need to make sure that all participants are equally ready when we go live. So you'll see the go live window, as I've said, is between the 25th of June and the 23rd of July. And we are going to go through each of these SIT and UAT cycles. There are an enormous amount of activities to take place. The reference data and health check, we've had some great lessons learned as we've included more and more participants. And we hope that from the next cycle, that reference data upload, which I can't emphasize enough, is a really critical exercise, and I would really ask each of the CSDP heads to go back and double check that you've been intimately involved in that process. So as we go through each test cycle, we're going to refine the tests, we're going to refine the execution, and we are going to provide results out to the market for the mandatory test results. So that really is the sort of major announcement is the go live window. Tyrone's going to go through some user readiness considerations. I'd ask you to really pay attention to these because we just simply cannot go live if the market isn't ready. It doesn't help that the systems internal to the JSE have been tested and are working well if the market participants don't know how margin works when we institute a failed trade. We're simply not going to be able to go live. It's really a critical issue. So I'm going to hand over to Tyrone and let him go through user readiness, and then we can see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Leila. I'll be doing a brief overview of some of the user readiness activities that we've been driving out as part of the T+3 project. Starting with market engagement, we've had a number of workshops in relation to the timing of commits and the impact that has on margin. We had one in Cape Town at the end of October and another one in Johannesburg last week. While we were in Cape Town, we also met with administrators, Maitland and Kira specifically, to discuss the same topic. We are hosting a SASLA-led discussion around securities lending and borrowing happening at the JSE today, which is focused on the lending desks and agents. And next week, we'll be undertaking a roadshow in the UK. We provided details of exactly what's going to be taking place over the course of the 5 days. We'll be kicking off on Monday with 2 presentations, one focused on issuers and dual-listed companies, and a second one focused on investors, where we speak to them about the impending changes resulting from the move to T+3, and also the way in which foreign participants will be impacted by that move. On the Tuesday and the Wednesday, we'll be participating in the NEMA Africa conference. We'll be sitting on a number of panels during the course of the conference and also participating in a roundtable discussion on the Wednesday. Thursday and Friday have been dedicated to client visits where we will be hosted by some of the foreign banks and speaking to their clients as content matter experts in relation to T+3. From a market education perspective, earlier this week we distributed our third mailer, which is essentially a cover note for our second batch of educational documents, which we shared with the market. The 3 documents that were included in that drop was a document relating to securities lending and borrowing, explaining exactly how it works and how it's going to be impacted by the move to T+3. A key document that speaks to exactly how failed management is going to work in the T+3 environment, explaining under what scenarios failed trades can occur and also how we manage each of those individual scenarios. And then lastly, a document that speaks to the migration procedures, explaining how over the go-live period, exactly how we'll be dealing with the transition and overlap between the T5 and the T3 settlement cycles. Another piece of work that we've been involved in is a process review initiative. When we first initiated this project, we did so on the basis that once we published the timelines for T+3, the assumption would be that the members would then take those timelines and do assessments on that and figure out exactly how they needed to align their internal processes with those new timelines and activities. Because this is such a key activity, we've actually decided to participate in this process, and we've partnered with one of the large brokerage firms to actually put together guidance to be processes. So we've actually taken the new T+3 timelines, have sat with the broker to go and understand how they currently work in their environment, and then mapped processes based on those activities. Our intention is then to publish those to the market, and then members will be able to take that and use that as a guide for developing their own to-be processes. In terms of the scope that's going to be coverage, we are going to be publishing processes in relation to controlled, non-controlled, and prop clients, corporate actions, and then also the management of failed trades. And we're looking at rolling that out beginning possibly in December, but definitely in the new year. We will also be providing formal training as part of the user readiness work that we're doing for T+3. Training will be done in 2 phases. The first phase is focused specifically on members to get them prepared for participation in SIT and UAT. And that training will be taking place in the last week of January and the first week of February. The second phase of training, which is really going to be refresher training in preparation for Go Live, the timing of that will be confirmed once we've actually confirmed exactly when the Go Live weekend is going to be. I'm not going to go through all of the detail that's going to be covered under the training, but essentially it will be divided up into 2 modules, okay? And we'll be running those modules over the course of the 10 days that we've specified for the phase 1 training. Module 1 will essentially cover all the changes to the timelines relating to the new settlement cycle, corporate actions, and the new BDA processing timelines. We'll also be giving you guys an indication of the new functionality that's going to be provided for in BDA and in ECS, and we'll also cover the impact that the new timelines will have on the margining process. In terms of Module 2, there will be a massive focus on fails management, and then there will also be a section relating to exactly how we're going to deal with migration over the go-live period. We will be publishing a market notice specifying exactly when the dates for training will be, and then also what the process will be for the booking of that training, and that will be coming out towards the end of this month. And then lastly, just with regards to market readiness, a lot has been said around the importance of market readiness and the impact it's going to have on our ability to successfully transition from a T5 to a T3 settlement cycle. There's been a lot of broad-based discussion around some of the activities that need to be initiated by the CSDPs and the members in preparation for that move. But the difficulty that we've had is that there hasn't been one consistent list of activities that all market participants have been progressing on. The second issue that we have is that we don't actually have visibility as to the progress that people are making against each of those activities. So with that in mind, we've actually put together a market readiness strategy and have defined a list of key activities, one for CSPs and another one for the brokers, which we feel are all the activities that need to be completed to make sure that each of the firms within our market are ready for the move to T+3. At the moment, we are in the process of vetting that list and making sure that all the activities are there that have been included within the framework are in fact comprehensive, are logical, and are the types of things that we can actually measure going forward. Once that list has been vetted, we will be publishing a reporting framework to both CSDPs and the members. and we'll be asking them to give us regular updates on exactly what kind of progress they're making against each of the activities that are being defined. The process of the vetting and formalization of the reporting framework will take place over December and early January, and we're hoping to start with the actual feedback of those results at the end of January, and then continuing that every month as we lead up to go live. And that is it from my side. Any questions? Cool, thank you.
Hi everybody, thanks Tyrone. Maybe just to add on to Tyrone, specifically the UAT that's going to start next year for the brokers. So naturally brokers are concerned about how much effort would it be, how will my resources be involved. But I want to put your minds at ease in that we are planning to do all the execution on your behalf. What you need to do is monitor and make sure that everything is right on the systems. So the involvement we're planning at this stage is purely just monitoring what's happening. The functionality that's going to change up front, we're actually rolling some of that stuff out before we go live with D3. So when we actually go live with D3 itself, it will just be about the accounting entries, the timeline changes, and the files management process. So there's no real execution that's going to be required from the broker. So the only time is to monitor. And maybe also to add another thing is, Tyrone did mention that it's mandatory for the brokers, and we're going to also have a mandated sign-off sheet that brokers will have to sign off against to make sure that you as a broker are ready and you actually understand all the new processes that will be implemented. And another point is that it will also probably be important for your traders to understand how this process is going to change, especially for the migration period. That's where the guys can really cock it up in terms of not trading correctly. So you guys have to make sure that they understand this very well. Okay, so that's just on the back of that. In terms of BDA itself, I just want to go forward. So if you go back to the June comp session, I presented this slide in terms of what we were planning to do. So let me just take this off. In terms of all the changes that we plan to do, I'm not going to show that, but I actually want to go to the next slide. And what you can see is the items in blue, what has already been delivered this year in terms of the changes. So the items in gray is what we're still busy working on. And obviously those are the bigger projects that the JSE is working on, and that will be the T3 DIS, and then obviously the BDA components in terms of the ITAC delivery. So this is what went live. You guys can take note of it, but what I want to point out is the securities lending borrowing upload that went live the last weekend. I don't know if you guys have picked up on that. So certainly from my perspective, I would like you guys to talk to your software providers, or if you do in-house development, make use of that upload. It will certainly improve the efficiencies in terms of integrating into BDA and removing any manual capture via the front-end screen. And also where there are some solutions in the market where people use screen scraping to actually replace that technology. So I really want to encourage you that if your service provider is making use of that, to actually consider using that upload mechanism, get rid of the screen scraping, because that's going to cause you more headaches in the future. Going on to the next slide, we've got some additional stuff that we plan to do, which we haven't actually committed to doing up front. But importantly on that is the auto and bulk force freeing functionality. So in discussions with the brokers we've had, they've said to us, you know, it's painful to go manually free all the purchases. Can you create something for us that makes life easier? And that's exactly what we've done. So we've listened to our clients. We've said from the word go that we want to focus on automation and creating functionality that will improve efficiency for you guys from an operational point of view. And certainly we believe that this change will certainly contribute to that. So you don't have to go and force free trades one by one. BE instrument functionality. So you guys know that the BE board went live. MTN went onto that, and it was listed on the 5th of November. But so we haven't made changes to BDA yet, and that was purely because of the conflict with T3 and the focus that was placed on T3. Having said that, I'm busy with analysis with our service provider to see what it will take to change BDA to facilitate multiple BE instruments linked to your client's account, and then also changing the deal management module to properly manage the activity around that, and also possibly making provision for different straight fees if that can be allowed. So that's in analysis phase, so trying to get the effort and the cost associated to that. And if I get approval internally at the JSE in terms of a cost point of view, we are looking to roll that out also before T3 go live, probably end of February, beginning March next year. Important to note, SLB is live, as you guys know, but the messages is not live yet. We plan to implement that when we go live with T3. And then also the account transfer portfolio moves. We're hoping to implement it this weekend or by the end of November, but all indications is that we're going to probably go live this weekend. So look out for that communication from Monday. We'll probably only publish the comms on Monday. So we're going to deploy the changes on Saturday. So the team will come in on the weekend to test that. And I know that's something that the brokers have been dying to use, and I'm sure you guys are looking forward to that. Once again, just to clarify, and it will also be in the communication, is it's the automation of moving the positions or the portfolios from one broker's client account to another broker automatically. What's not going live on this weekend is the Swift messages associated to that. That will only go live with T3 itself. So that's also important to understand, is that that part of it won't go live. Once you guys also see in terms of our approach with all of this, it's to minimize the T3 go live risk. So we're doing all of this, implementing all of this functionality in bits and pieces to make sure that when we go live with T3, you don't suddenly sit with where you have to adopt all your business processes. We have to do all of the integration all at the same time. We've delivered the real-time deal management solution in October last year. I mentioned this last time. There've been great take-up from most of the large institutional brokers in terms of changing their processes and automating that. I want to encourage you guys again, if you haven't considered that, please do so. It's all about making sure that you've got more efficiencies in your operations in order to meet the T3 timelines, and also because of the reduced time you'll have to in terms of your activities. And what's also live, which we sort of also an extra for the brokers, you guys have asked me in terms of your own reporting that you do, you wanted the ability in BDA when you download the data to see which purchases were freed and which weren't freed, because you wanted to build your own reports in terms of monitoring that and making sure that you can free the purchases. We've actually added that, and that also went live a while ago. So if other brokers want to make use of it, you're also welcome to do that. Guys, but I think the key focus from our side is, I think we've done quite a bit to ensure that we can build automation and create efficiencies for you. I'm sure there's lots more that you guys would like us to do. But at this point in time, I think we've done significantly well in terms of that. And that's really all from my side. I don't know if there are any specific questions you guys have got for me around BDA. Yes.
Chris, you're making a lot of changes to the BDA dissemination file.
Yeah.
Any way that we can get test files prior to a change?
Okay, so let me explain to you the way we're doing the changes. In all the card codes, there's a filler at the back. So we're putting the new data into the filler. So you can actually, I'm happy to give you test files if you want it, but just in order to minimize the impact to the brokers is, even if we make the change and the data is included, if you didn't, nobody codes for the filler. So it has actually no impact to you, but happy to give you test data if you want that. Okay. You just have to give me your details afterwards. Okay.
Can you give us an overview of the BDA SLA? You touched on it already.
Sure. Do you want? So the SLA is around when BDA comes up in the morning, which is 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock at night, and then about the dissemination files that's available during the weekday, available on weekends, and then specifically at month end where there's different times associated to those. And that's really it.
Okay, my question really is, the last few months we've had a lot of inconsistencies in the BDA file being delivered in the mornings.
Sure.
Yeah, so often it's earlier than SLA.
What exactly is SLA?
The actual times.
So they're different ones. So what I suggest we do is we are rolling out additions to JSA next year, okay? And there'll be a service schedule for BDA. And so what we'll do is we can send out a service hotline to say, here's the indicative SLAs, which will be rolled out in the JSA next year. We'll be adding a new schedule. But we can give you those indicative SLAs now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because often what happens is the SLA says 4 a.m., but let's say we produce it consistently at 2:30 in the morning. As soon as it's not available at 2:30, clients are saying, but where's it? Where's it?
No,
you know what I mean?
And I think you've been consistent a lot of timings on, but the last few times we've probably had 3 or 4 this year where it came in like 7 o'clock.
Yes.
7:30.
Yes.
Yeah. We had the issue on Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Was it Tuesday? Yes, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday morning.
Yeah. 7:30.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So again there, same issue in terms of if we have upstream processes that actually delay start of batch, one of the things that we're doing with the IT team is to remove some of those dependencies as much as possible so that we can actually kick BDA batch off and it doesn't have a knock-on consequence because we understand the impact that it has on the market. Okay. Right. So first of all, I understand there were some issues with teleconference dial-in. The webinar worked perfectly, both sound and picture, but unfortunately we had some issues with the teleconference. It only started to work a little bit later. I don't know what it is, but somehow that capability just doesn't work as smoothly as we would like. So for those that are listening in, we do apologize for that. Maybe it's a good opportunity you can come visit us, even if you are in London or wherever. I mean, it's nice weather here. It's very hot. We've had some vicious thunderstorms, but at least the webinar did work from that perspective. So maybe that's also an option. If the teleconference is not working, use the webinar capability there. The two options available if you're not here personally. And then really I want to leave it open if there are any additional questions in terms of anything that you'd feel like we didn't cover. Again, you are welcome to give us suggestions of what you would like covered in these comm sessions. We generally talk to the various business areas and figure out what are the hot topics of the moment, and we structure the comm sessions accordingly against that. Are there any questions that anybody would like to raise or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you just give us a little bit more information around the changes of 4G beneficial downloads and...
You need to come here so that the people can hear you. Or there. There's a... He heard you, but the people on the call didn't.
Okay, so Luanna's asking about changes to the beneficial download, and I think that relates to the email addresses that's going to be used. You guys would have seen comms that went out about a field that we've created on BDA, where depending on how you populate that field, it will determine the use of the email address. But that's the first part of the change. There's a bigger change involved as we have to talk to Straight, because Straight now also have to make a change. So Straight's also been on the JSE's case about that in terms of including the email address into the BND file. So now we've made the BDA change. Once again, it wasn't something that we planned for, but with all the T3 activity coming up, and it was a reasonably simple change to do. I thought I'd quickly sneak it in anyway. So we've taken that live. The default on the system would be not to include the email address, and that also ties back to the POPI requirements, where you have to get clients' consent in terms of whether you're allowed to issue or give out that email address. So the change in BDA has been structured around that. So as a broker, there's 4 different options that you have to choose. So once Straight have made their change, then it will be up to them and the issuers to make sure they interpret that value correctly to ensure that the use of the email is according to what the client has given you as a broker instruction to use that email for. Okay.
So are you going to default that field
to... It's already defaulted to Spaces, so I can guarantee you it will not be in the BND that we're creating at the moment, because I know the sensitivity around that. Okay.
Some of the people are saying that although it's known, you can go and look at any system and get the beneficial downloads and people's names and things like that. And you can find out wealth of information really from their portfolios. So it's just their names will still appear on the BND download, but the email won't appear on the BND download. Is that correct?
That's correct. 100%.
And then the name on the BND download is legislation. That we can't get away with. That's not a JSE or a Straight requirement. That's a requirement that's sitting in the Companies Act.
From a public perspective, some people are saying that someone can see, they just don't look at my name, I'm a whole portfolio.
Sure, but I mean, then there's a conflict of legislation, which I think we must get the legislative writers and masters to sort out, because that's not us.
Yeah.
Right, Ian. Ian wants to add something. Ha!
Yeah, look,
When Straight doing the change?
Just sneak that one in.
Sorry, we put you on the spot. No, we can hear you.
Yeah, look, the email address is very important to the issuer. We will only supply that information to the issuer. Okay, and it's in line with legislation. The issuer needs to, as you know, the post office system is not working. The issuer needs to interact with his investors as well. So I would encourage you, please, to put the email address on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I understand that.
Okay, so again, This is probably one of the start of many rolling changes that are going to come with POPI. This is not just B&D type related. There will be other kinds of things like disclosure on our website, you know, in terms of even like software providers, all sorts of things where we have quite a task team internally in the JSE looking at all the POPI compliance and some of the things that we may or may not have to do with all the information we have. Right. Any other questions? No. Then I will release you, and we hope you have a fabulous day. And if there is any food left outside from your colleagues, you may munch it up as much as you want.